When I first started running, I didn't know what training plan I needed. So I downloaded an app and found a training plan. After that, for a year and a half, I followed it to the dot. I didn't question the pace it's asking me to run at. I just trusted the process. Before I knew it, about a year into my running journey, my intervals kept getting harder. When it happened, I didn't think the plan was wrong. I would instead think I was wrong. 18 months. That's how long this mistake has cost me in order to learn that most running advice or plan isn't wrong. It's just not built specifically for me. If you've ever searched how to start running on YouTube, you probably know the problem. There's just so much advice out there. And you know some of it is right and some of it is wrong. You just don't know which part is wrong. As we're getting older, when we go beyond our 30th birthday, we started to feel the clock. We would think that we can't afford to spend 3 months doing the wrong thing, get injured, and start over again. I'm saying this as someone who started running 2 years ago when I was 33, as someone who almost lost my life from a medical procedure in a collapsed lung surgery. So without further ado, let's jump into the 3 steps I use to filter running advice I get. First step, I ask, who is giving this advice? And I don't mean are they qualified. Most coaches online will appear as they are. What I mean is, would they actually understand and relate to my situation? What's their background? Did they go through a similar journey as I do? Just to be clear, the advice might be perfectly correct for them, but their body could have solved problems your body hasn't even encountered yet. The advice itself isn't wrong, but it wasn't tested on a body like yours. So here's what I'm looking for now. I look for people who started where I started. People who started running late, people whose stories sound like mine. And just to be clear, this doesn't mean ignoring the advice from the elite runners completely. What I mean is to understand the context they're speaking from and filter what applies to you and what is not. And this brings us to the next important step. Second step, ask the question, why does this advice help? What problem is it actually solving? This is where most people get lost, because a perfectly good advice can still be the wrong advice for you at where you're at right now. Let me give you an example. When I was struggling with my training plan, every piece of advice I found was asking me to do more intervals and less easy runs. But the advice was solving a problem I didn't have at that time. The problem wasn't that I wasn't training hard enough. The problem was that I wasn't recovering properly. I was following a plan designed for someone who already had a recovery foundation, someone who sleeps well, eats well, and have years of conditioning. And I had none of that. So now, before I take any advice, I ask myself, what problem is this supposed to fix? And do I actually have that problem? If the advice tells you to increase mileage, is your problem that you're not running enough? Or is the problem that you're not recovering enough? Most beginner runners over 30 don't need to train harder. They need to train smarter. And smarter usually means understanding what your body is actually asking for, and not blindly following what the internet says you should do next. But here's where it gets tricky. You can ask all yourself these questions, but if you're just going off memory of how you think you felt last week, you're still guessing. You need your own data to compare against. So before you can filter anyone's advice, you need to establish your own baseline. Every single day, I track 3 things. First thing, my recovery score. On a scale from 1 to 10, how recovered does my body feel? Second thing, the perceived effort if I run or do any workout. On a scale from 1 to 10, how hard did today's workout feel? Last thing, 1 to 2 sentences to summarize how my body feels today. That includes how I slept, anything that hurts, and if I felt heavy before I even started. That's it. I only spend maybe a couple minutes a day and a total of 15 minutes a week on this. After a month, I'll have the data from the previous 30 days where I can see patterns. I could now look back to see, for example, every time my recovery dropped to below 4, I would need to skip intervals and do an easy run instead. The biggest mistake when I didn't have this data is I would talk myself into running hard sessions when my body is not ready for it. With the data, it's right there in my own tracker. This is the filter I use that has been helping me to keep my body intact and find the right advice I need. So next time some coach tells you to push through fatigue, you don't have to guess whether that advice applies to you. You already have the data and you can take the advice to place it against your own pattern. Remember this, the tracker doesn't have to be perfect. You will need to tweak it over time. What matters most is you start tracking it. Once you have your own data, this next step will actually work in your favor. Last step, experiment. Once you know who the advice comes from and why it is supposed to help you, you go and test it. But not blindly, not for 18 months like I did. You test it with a feedback loop. Here's what that actually looks like. You hear a piece of advice, let's say someone says, run 5 days a week instead of 3. You look at your tracker first. You ask, what's the recovery been the past week? Do you have room to try? If the number said you can try it, then experiment with it for the next 2 weeks. And every day you write down what happens based on the 3 things I asked you to track. What's the perceived effort of each run? What's your recovery score every day? And is there anything to elaborate how you feel that day, mentally and physically? After every week, I suggest you to look at the data you inputted. If your recovery stays solid and you feel good, then keep it. If your recovery's dropped and everything felt harder, then you gotta adjust. This is the part no training plan or advice online can do for you. Only you would know what your body feels like after a bad night of sleep. Only you would know when your legs feel heavy before you even start to run. The goal is to build a system that works for your body, at your age, with your history. And the way to get there is to experiment. Pay attention to how you feel and adjust against your own data. Here's the biggest change for me after I started this tracking and filtering system. I stopped second-guessing myself in the middle of a plan. I stopped following other people's voice in my head telling me to push harder, run faster, and do more. I stopped blaming myself when a run or a workout didn't go as planned. I now have evidence based on 100% my own experience. When someone tells me that I need to add more mileage, I can confidently look at my recovery score and say, no, I don't. That's confidence. Not confidence in my ability to run, but the confidence in my own information. Look, there is always going to be more advice. There will be more videos, more variation of different plans, and more people telling you what to do. But you don't need to watch all of it before you start. And you also don't need to worry if you follow the wrong advice. You just need the 3 things I just showed you. Know who's talking, know why it matters, and have your own data so you can experiment and adjust. My name is Felix, just figuring things out one run at a time. If you have been stuck in the research loop, watching video after video and not sure what advice to trust, drop a comment. Tell me what piece of advice you followed that ended up being wrong for you, and how long did it take you to figure it out. And if you're someone who wants running to actually fit into your life, subscribe to this channel. I make videos for people who started late, started slow, and are still figuring it out. Now, depending on where you are in your running, here's what I would point you to. If you're still trying to build the habit, and if you getting out the door is the hardest part for you, I made a video about the identity shift that makes running stick. If you're already running but feel like every run is harder than it should be, watch my videos on 3 signs you're not running easy enough. Pick the one that fits where you are at right now. I'll see you on the next one.